Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gents, we have two short stories for you that we're going to be bringing to your attention. One of them is called The Drops and the Sparks. The other is called The Super Guys, the Ironic Duel. We're going to start with the drops and the sparks. It's a little story. This is a story about the drops who make up the waters and the sparks that make up a fire. It just so happens on the crest of a mount mid-bowl that two drops would encounter three sparks. It went this way. Author, one of the drops, says, "Mindy, we've never traveled this far before." Mindy says, "That's because you were too scared." Arthur says, "No, I wasn't." Mindy says, "Was too." Arthur says, "Was not." Jack says, "Hey, you two." They're the sparks. "Why are you trespassing?" Mindy says, "Trespassing?" James says, "Yeah, this is Sparks 21 territory." Minnie says, "Sparks 21? Marcy says, "Don't mind those two. They've missed the short bus and have to wait for an eternity to arrive before they can get a clue." Jack says, "Yeah, what she said." And Marcy says, "You guys are not from around here. Judging by the looks, you're from the Spring Clan, and not the Purified one." Arthur says, "Wow, how did she know that? Mindy, she must be psychic." Mindy says, "No, genius, she read your backpack." Marcy says, "She's right." Jack says, "You guys are not supposed to be here. You suck up all of our oxygen and kill us dead." Mindy says, "It's the other way around. You suck up all of our oxygen and turn us into mist and vapors." Marcy says, "This is why we never see each other." Oxy says, "Hey, you guys, what are you doing together? Don't you know about the agreement? The truce?" Mindy says, "What?" Jack says, "A truce?" Marcy says, "Truce?" Oxy, one of the oxys, these are other creatures that make up the oxygen, they said, "Didn't your folks tell you?" "Oh my, they didn't tell you. Oh, you guys are never meant to be together. We have an agreement. Neither one of you control us. We control you. Without us, neither of you exists. And because of... Oh, you're here. You've broken the truce. Oh my, oh my, oh my. I must tell the other guys. Oh, this is bad. Very bad. Look, don't move a muscle. Either of you. I'll be right back." He goes to the sparks, goes to speak to the others, and comes back. "Oh, it's just as I figured. The truce is broken. The truce is broken. Oh my. What are we gonna do? Oh, the truce is broken, y'all. Oh, and that could only mean one thing. War!" Mindy says, "War?" Marcy says, "You're joking, right?" He's got to be kidding. Jack says, "War? Great! Finally some action!" Oxy says, "No, you don't understand. With war, you get no oxy. You dry up, and you sparks without oxy, you smolder and die." James says, "My Uncle Clyde simmered and died. It was not a good sight, not a good sight at all." Jack says, "Uncle Clyde?" James says, "Uncle Clyde." Jack says, "I liked him. He smelled, but I liked him, fake teeth and all." James says, "Well, he's no mo. He simmered." Mindy says, "Oh gosh. Look, let's get back and tell the others, and maybe they have a plan." Marcy says, "Yeah, and we'll meet right back here by Jade Rock in an hour." Mindy says, "Are you sure it's safe to meet even after what happened today?" Marcy says, "Why not? The truce is broken. What further damage can be done?" Mindy says, "You're probably right," so they all leave. The Oxys, Oxy number 2, and 4 others appear. And they said, did they buy it? And Oxy number 1 says, did they buy it? They not only bought it, but they bought the patent. Oxy number 3 says, what if they find out? Oxy number 4 says, find out what? Oxy number 3 says that there's no truth. Oxy number 1 says, sure there is, just not one with them and us. And now, there are 2 particular butterflies lurking in the weeds, and one's name is Cliff. And Cliff says, did you hear that? Michael says, hear what? I was listening to the Oxys gloat about how they tricked the drops and the sparks, and weren't you listening? Cliff says, never mind. Cliff and Michael are Albanian butterflies. And Cliff says, we should go and tell them. Michael says, tell them? Why should we tell them? They already know they tricked them. Squandered, fooled, conned, bamboozled, outflanked, misguided, misdirected. 40 minutes later, misinformed. The sun is starting to set. He says, you really ought to get your priorities in order. Cliff says, you're right, Michael. What would you suggest I do? Michael says, oh, that's simple. Go and tell the sparks and the drops. And Cliff says, why, Michael, that's a brilliant idea. Why didn't I think of that? Michael says, genetics. But keep hanging around me and some of it will rub off. Cliff says, that's what I'm afraid of. Michael says, what's that? Cliff says, I said sounds like wisdom from above. Michael says, why, thank you. The first non-denominational meeting between the drops and the sparks in 3,600 years. Papa Flame says, now everybody calm down. The ABF may be correct. Albanian butterflies. May be correct, or they may have heard wrong. We don't know. Mama Fall says, Papa's right. Until we know more, we should not speculate. Reverend Infernal says, now, to err on the side of caution, I say caution. It's prudent indeed. But these are the last days of prophecy, and we needs to seek shelter where we may be best protected from the great rock from above. Deacon Pope says, no, we must first offer a sacrifice, a version of both classes and clans. Papa Flame says, there shall be no hiding and no sacrifice. We shall go to the Oxys and get to the bottom of this. And the people agree. Deacon Pope says, I still say a virgin sacrifice, 2 virgin sacrifices. Reverend Inferno, no, shelter. We must hide. I'll protect the 2 virgins and all their alternates. I will shield them from any harm that may come their way, while I shall thrust my body upon them and provide them the ultimate protection. Mama Fall says, the 2 of you shut up, or I will have you protect Anna, Betsy, Joy, and Mabel. These are all in their hundreds. They're all virgins, just as you requested. Reverend Infernal says, perhaps I spoke too hastily. And Deacon Pope says, well, since you put it that way, maybe dialogue is the most prudent course. Ladies and gentlemen, the sparks and the drops, and, well, technically, the drops and the sparks, it's going to be left up to other people to add the rest of the story. This is not a sequel, this is just a mini-series of 5 episodes where the drops, the sparks, and the oxys show what really goes on a molecular level with our environment. Remember, oxygen is combined in water and air. The fire needs oxygen. The water needs oxygen. Without it, it's just hydrogen or helium or... See? So, the sparks, the oxys, and the drops. Beginning of that story. Alright, that's a fun one. I like that one. Would you want to be my friend? Ladies and gentlemen, we have another short story. This one is called Super Guys, the Ironic Duel. It's about Nevin and Levin. They are cousins, both born on the same day, in the same state, in the same city, in the same hospital, in the same maternity ward, by the same hands of two doctors who themselves were twins. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. There was a problem with the dual deliveries. Somehow, a mixture of helon, nitrous oxide, and general anesthesia was introduced into the mother's bloodstreams. Both women were fine, but the newborns were released to their respective families after 2 months of observation. Both went to the same school, wore the same clothes, ate at the same food location, ate the same foods, rode the same model bike. Well, you get the picture. These two fellas were just ordinary until May 25th, 1999, at precisely 10:15 a.m. They changed. Instead of being the same, they were now polar opposites. Nevin, the geek, and Levin, the jock and ladies' man's, or so he says he is. Since this is all new to them, they attempt to learn their limits the hard way. And so it would be. They tried to leap a 10-story building. That didn't go well. They tried to stop a moving train by anchoring a chain to the rear. 3 counties later, they would rethink that idea. They would try to bungee jump off a mountain. The very first attempt, a mountain, not a trash can, not a wall or a house, but a mountain with a 30,000-foot drop. Nevin thought since none of their other failed attempts resulted in any bodily damage, that they should be okay. Yep, scientific reasoning at its pitiful best. So here we go. Nevin says, "Okay, you ready, Levin?" Levin says, "Ready? Why I gotta go first?" Nevin says, "Paper covers rock." Levin says, "That's a stupid game." Nevin says, "Game or not, it's your turn." Levin says, "Well, I'm not going." Now, Nevin comes over. Oh my gosh, I forgot." Levin says, "Forgot what?" "I forgot to check your backup." Levin says, "See? This could have..." And he pushes him over. "Killed me! Nevin!" And Nevin looks over the edge of the cliff and he says, "Levin, you okay, cousin?" And Nevin from the bottom of the cliff says, "Yeah, I'm okay, but you pretty soon won't be." And Nevin says, "Oh, come on, cuz. It's the scientific experiment." And Levin says, "Scientific by..." censored. Nevin says, "But we know we can survive a 30,000-foot fall unscathed." Levin says, "We've learned?" And Nevin says, "Yeah, we're a team, Levin and Nevin." Levin says, "Yeah, Levin and Nevin." And Nevin says, "Notice how I gave you top billing?" Levin says, "Yeah, now stop before I remember being pushed." They're back at the family home in the Hamptons, and Levin says, "Mother, did you forget my clothing?" He speaks in an accent only in the Hamptons. Mrs. Croy says, "Yes, darling, they're hanging on your door as always." Levin says, "Mother, you're the best. What would I do without you?" And Mrs. Croy says, "What indeed?" And Levin says, as he walks into the kitchen, What's that, Mother?" And she says, Oh dear, I was speaking to myself. Now dinner is at 7 sharp, and no excuses. Levin says, but mother. And Mrs. Croy says, no excuses, and that's that. Where's your cousin at? He's supposed to be here. And Levin says, oh, you know him. He's always late. And as he says this, Nevin walks in. And he says, hello, Aunt Helen. You look more beautiful every time I see you. Did you redo your hair? Oh, and that dress. If you keep losing weight, we will have to do an intervention. Mrs. Croy says, now, Nevin, stop it. I've worn this dress many times, but I guess I have lost some weight. And my hair, I had it done yesterday, and you are the only one that noticed. Nevin says, beautiful flowers are rarely noticed by their rivals, but when they blossom, they stand alone, all by themselves for all to see. And he kisses her on the cheek, and she says, dear child, you're going to make me blush. Nevin says, all the more reason. Mrs. Croy says, reason. Now go you two off to your routine in the study while I set dinner. And they both head into the study. Levin says, hey Nev, got something I want to show you. Nevin says, Lev, I got something I want to show you. Levin says, no, me first. Nevin says, no, cuz, me first. I'm the guest, you're the host. Levin says, I'm the eldest. Nevin says, no, you're not. Levin says, am too. Nevin says who? Levin says me. Nevin says, okay, then that's that. I'm going first. Levin says, what? Nevin says, age must yield to beauty. Levin says, okay. Wait a minute. And Nevin walks into the study, and Nevin says, okay, Lev, where'd he go? And Levin walks right in behind him. You stole my idea! You stole my surprise! Levin says, no, I didn't. You must have been following me again like before. Levin says, no, I have not. Nevin says, I can go to China and back in 2 seconds. Levin says, I can go to the Antarctic and back. But gotta remember to wear some clothes. It was freezing. I mean cold. So cold that Frosty said that I was nuts. Nevin says Frosty was right. Okay, indestructible, teleportation. We really ought to test our other abilities. Levin says, we? You act like we're some team or something. Levin says, well, we are, aren't we? Levin says, maybe. Nevin says, what are you getting at? Levin says, I get the hot chicks and you the bifocals. And we got a deal. Nevin says, okay, fine, we got a deal. And they both go in to eat. And they say, the mother calls them in to eat, and they say, now let's go and eat. Nevin says, we'll speak about this tomorrow. The next day, Nevin says, okay, let's see if we change, let's see if we can go to the same teleport at the same time. Trial number 10. Wait, what the? Levin! What did you do? Speaking in reverb and slow motion, Levin says, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Levin says, do what? What did you do? Levin says, I tried to back out of the porting. Nevin says, what do you mean back out? Levin says, instead of going forward, I teleported backwards. Levin says, oh man, oh man, oh man, we must do something. of us, or should I say 8 sets of us. Levin says, look, maybe I just need to. Nevin says, no, you just stop it. Stop thinking. It's what got us into this mess in the first place. Levin said, you act as if I knew this would happen. Nevin says, you must have, because you did it without any discussion, any heads up, nothing. Levin says, all right. God, you can really act like a bia. And Nevin says, 8 sets of us, probably trapped forever. No clue as to how to get out of this. And at that moment, Levin just transports back again, or teleports back again. Like this, ha ha ha! Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Big Papa. Huh, boy? Yeah, Nevin slaps him across the head. Ouch! What was that for? Nevin said, because you ain't got no kids, remember? Levin said, man, give me some credit and some respect. I found a new ability. Nevin says, you're right. You almost got us stuck forever and possibly stranded. No food, no water, nothing. Yep. All of the credit goes to you. Levin says, I love it when you call me Big Papa. Notorious. Nevin said, you gotta be kidding me. Levin said, what? Man, Biggie's the bomb. Nevin said, whatever. Levin says, you don't like Biggie? Oh, you're a hater. That's what your problem is. You're a hater. Carlton, Tony Bennett wants his plaid pants back. Biggie, I'll be missing you. Puffy, you forgot your cone. Pac, is there really a heaven for a G? Hail Mary. Nevin says, will you stop it, please? Levin says, are you sure? 'Cause I can do this all day. Nevin says, yes, I'm sure. Levin says, think before you answer. Are you sure? The Staple Singers. Nevin says, oh God. Levin says, look, that's by... I don't know who that's by. What's that tune? Oh God. The two work together in coming up with new abilities on the fly as they develop one. The technique, Nevin says, the technique that you invented. Levin says, invented. Nevin says, you like that? Levin says, yeah. Nevin says, yeah, I knew you would. Well, I was thinking, what would happen if I tried to touch one of my copies or to use one of these techniques in a temple zone? Levin says, temple zone? I really don't like that name. I mean, it's way too childish. Nevin says, well, you make a suggestion. And if not, then we will stick and settle with the day that we attempted to enter into it. Levin says, stationary. I like stationary. No zone and no other identifiers, just stationary. Nevin says, you know, I like that. So stationary it is. So let's try touching one of our doubles, then one of each other's double. When they first try, the doubles disappear, and after some hours they reappear without any clue as to where they had been. Levin touches it, and and he is able to see and know in an instant all of that had happened. Levin says, "Hey Nev, you're not gonna believe this. He went to California. He went to the California boring meeting. He made nicey nice with the board. Said that you were dealing with a pressing matter. Oh, and Rachel sends her love, and she says call her. He also handled the Cooper deal, just as we discussed, and I know everything, every detail, every second." Nevin says, "You're kidding. You mean I don't even have to go to work? Or that I could date 9 girls? No, let's make that 39 girls. Gotta keep it realistic as possible." Nevin says, "That would mean 0 girls." Levin says, "What's that?" Nevin says, "Nothing, cuz, nothing. You were dreaming, you were saying?" Levin says, "Yeah, 39 girls at once, and never let on and experience everything at the same time. This is fantastic!" Levin says, "Fantastic! This is awesome!" Ladies and gentlemen, that is the super guys, the ironic duel. Um, I like the story, and so I introduced this story to all of you all. And my suggestion is that when we start up the Eon web channel, or excuse me, the actual website, we will be putting out our own material. And stuff like this story, we'll be inviting people to help put the story together. And the individuals who put together the best episodes will be the episodes we publish, either animation or actually acting out. We're going to put together our own network, our own channel. And so we invite all of you. This is only an introduction to the type of stories. We have over 125 different stories, and as you've seen thus far, none of the stories that we have told sound like the other. None of the characters sound like the other, and if you really pay attention, with the characters, their personalities are all different. Even though written by the same person, the personalities of each character is not identical. Well, thank you again for joining us here at the Eon channel, and have a good day.